Hi, a happy hoarder here, and I am delighted to be participating in the Found Object Challenge hosted by me and my sweet friend David Owens Creates. And I'm going to thank him because he did all the work. I just kind of announced it every now and then. Today I'm going to be showing you 4 crafts that I did, starting with these Suncatchers that I made from a church stained glass window that was torn down. And this is an example of what the entire window looked like. They're beautiful pieces, and they came out of a church here in Ruston. And I know you can't see, I could not find any images, but that was the church before. And this is another example of kind of what it looked like. And I pulled these off of the internet. And here's another example of just how gorgeous this glass was. They did remodel the church and tore all these and threw them in the dumpster. And I had connections, so I ended up with a whole bunch of this glass. And here's some examples of the glass that I had. And I just thought it was so unusual and fun. And I kind of love the shapes that it was. So I was looking forward to doing just some fun things with it. And what I needed to do first was drill some holes. One thing I did do was just kind of play with it to see where I thought the hole would fit the best and kind of give it some balance. Usually it doesn't matter, but this was a particular piece because I liked it because it kind of looked like the letter G. So I wanted to use it. I am using a drill press, and I have a bit that's just a little bit larger than the copper rings that I'm using. And I made my own jump rings by taking copper wire and wrapping it around a dowel and then just cutting them with a Dremel to give me the rings. So I made like a spiral and then I cut rings. So I needed to make the holes a little bit bigger because of the curve. It needed to kind of fit inside and make that curve. It does drill very easily. This is a resin technique that they use where they lay out like a grit and then they set the glass, set the glass down, lay out a grid of how they want the the glass to look, and then they put the grit over it and it acts like a resist, and then they pour resin over it. So it is really easy to work with. I have cut it with a saw, and every now and then it kicks up some sparks, so probably from the grit. It's kind of scary to work with, so I don't really like cutting it, so I kind of just let it do what it does. So here I am opening up the copper jump rings, and this was just scrap copper that I had. It actually came from my brother. He does some recycling, and he has wires that he had some spare wires that I kind of borrowed from him. Like, yeah, you have any copper? I'm coming to get it. So I love using it for this though. It does patina. It does start off a really pretty, shiny copper, but does patina down to just brown. And I guess I could polish it up, but I'm not going to bother with that. So I made a lot of these for a open house that I had many, many, many years ago, because I've had this glass for years. So what I'm doing right now, I cannot use my bare hands to squeeze this, or a mini tools for that matter. So I'm just showing how I use my vise. Now my husband did the video and he doesn't realize you need to turn the camera the other way. So there you have it. But I'm using the vise just to kind of help me push these together. That's got to have tools when you don't have the strength. So one of the things I should mention here, the vise does a very old vise, as you can see. And you can see some blue tape on it. It doesn't need to be covered with tape because it does scratch up the copper because copper's so soft. And another thing that we do that I'll always let my husband do because I'm not really good around fire, he will go back and do my seal the little jump rings with some solder. And that really, I just like the way it looks when it's finished like that. It works either way if you just squeeze it together. One trick I did learn is that you have to kind of overshoot it, and then twist it, and then it will kind of spring back into shape. I don't know. It's just a weird way to describe it. But when you're doing the jump rings, you have to pass each other, pass the joints, and then you kind of come back and twist it to get them back lined up. So I'm trying to show an example of that. So you can see how they're kind of lining up better. I don't know where I'm in there. No, see how they're not lining up? So in order to get them to line up, you have to kind of overshoot it because I cannot push them together here. Once again, so weak. I'm still trying. But it takes me a minute to get all this kind of configured to show you how that works. Just a little thing. I haven't done this in years and years, and typically what I do is made these for the fall and winter when the trees have lost their leaves. And I talk more about this on the live stream that you're going to be seeing more of in the video to come. You definitely want to check out that live stream. We had a lot of fun, and I worked on several of these while I was doing it and explained more about them. But I made these for an open house and had them hanging up in my trees. And of course, people were out shopping in my trees. I had to put them all down where people could reach them. But they got to see how wonderful they look in the winter when the low sun. Okay, this was actually November, so yeah, winter. So when the low winter sun sets down on, they just catch so much light, especially without any shade, and they're gorgeous. I really love them in my pear tree because my pear tree had a lot of low limbs, and I was able to hang a lot in that. And then here's my example, by the way, of me bypassing it and then coming back and using that tension in order to get it to line up. So just fun things I do and learn on my own. I read no directions. I just wing it. What can I say? So yeah, and you can see I'm struggling because I always struggle. I also recommend taping up the ends of your tools as well because you will scratch up your cropper. So it's because this is outside and it's not something I'm selling. I wasn't worried about all those little details on this one that I'm doing an example of. But if this was something, and I know these are impossible for you to find, but who knows? Somebody out there may know how to get some of these. It broke my heart that they just trashed these gorgeous glass windows. Now I know over time, stained glass can lose its integrity, so I don't know what had happened. It may have had cracks in it, and they felt necessary to take it down. I could not find a single photo of these windows, but from my memory, I seem to remember a sunburst and then a lot of blue and then the greens and things like that. So maybe a scene. And if you are from Louisiana, Ruston, Louisiana to be specific, and you remember these windows and you have a photo, please let me know and share it with me on Instagram because it was a gorgeous window and it was really sad to see it all come down. Later on, they did make these pillars and we did end up with the pillars. Two friends of mine and I got in here and really dug around and grabbed as much as we could. It's very heavy glass and it has a particular name. I wish I knew what it was, but there's a name for that thick glass. So here I am, and I'm just kind of digging through my stash of wire that I have, and this is stuff that I got from my brother, and kind of showing you what I'm going to do with it. And I basically just wrapped it around, and I'm trying to work a little bit faster on this because you know how things are. Nobody want to watch me in slow motion. So here's another one of the really cool olive greens. They had lots of different shades of greens, a lot of cobalt blue, which I love. I so love my blue. A little bit of reds and yellows that I got. I think my sisters, Linda and Kathy, got more of the yellows and reds in their lot, but it was harder to come by. I just ended up with a lot of blue for some reason. But we had more fun. It was a little bit of sun left, but it was fixing to be some rain. But we were holding all these pieces up to the light and go, ooh, pretty. Instead of just doing the right thing and just like loading it up as quickly as possible. We were kind of picking through and playing with it. And it did come in big chunks a lot of the times, and most of the pieces had broken out. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. And I'm back, and I'm still losing my voice. But I decided not to do a lot of editing on this narration because I will spend hours doing that, and I don't want to do that. So I did spend my time working on this during the live stream. You see, now I've taped up my, and not very well, by the way, but I've taped up my tool in order to not scratch it up. So typically, a person who had any common sense would be wearing gloves because this does have some sharp edges on it. And it is glass, but I'm pretty familiar with some of the pieces and what's going to cut you and what's not, because I have played with this for many years. I think I've had this, I can't remember when they changed it, but the original the original church was built in 1965. And I think it was about 10, 15 years ago, maybe, when they tore it down. And they tore down the front and redid the front. So this is just a little easy thing that I did in order to give it the look I wanted. And it's simple. It'll hang up. You can hang these up everywhere and anywhere. And I'm like, what am I looking for now? Okay, so another technique I had been using in the past was to use some thin wire to kind of reinforce it. But really, I'm not going to do it because I like it better if you can just get a really strong hold on it to do something like that. I like it much better. And you can see some of the older ones I did where I used the different wires to kind of help tie it in, but this holds up pretty well. And then finally, I do make hangers to go on them, but I have found that they hang better if I use zip ties and kind of keep it loose. Here's the deal, I've got to tell you. I talked about this during the live stream. This is something you need to put on your trees in the winter so that the limbs will not grow, or the wire won't grow into the limbs, because the limbs don't grow during the winter. I'm going to try to say this in this, not have to go back and edit it, but do you understand what I'm saying by that? But not only do you get the benefit of the lack of leaves, and so you get a lot of light on them, you also don't have to worry about them growing into the trees. Now that means I have to take them all up in the spring, which is good anyway, because when the pollen starts getting all over them, they do get really nasty. So I am kind of reading responses and stuff right now, so give me a minute for that. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, and they're beautiful, and I really liked them, and I think it was just something I wanted to share with y'all. It's a fun thing that I've done. I think you can do something very similar with glass, the thinner glass. Just recommend you wrap that glass with some of that copper tape or something, just to help protect those edges while you're working with it. But anyway, they're beautiful light catchers, and I found a lot of uses for them, so keep watching as you see the different things that I did with them. My next project is a little display stand made out of a vintage, very tarnished meat fork. I know you've seen these done before, but I thought it was so cute because it was just this old meat fork that I found and I've had forever and just had to find a purpose for. And this was the perfect thing. And being that it was my birthday, I had a really good choice of things to use this for. So I wanted to go ahead and make it. Now, what I did is I bent the tines back, the two bigger ones, the two outside ones in one direction because my husband coming in for a visit, and then the two smaller ones in the middle back, and I did separate them a little bit to give it stability. And it doesn't need a lot of stability because I'm just making this for cards. I will point out right now that I did the decorative side of the fork where it was visible when it had something on it. I mean, you're not going to see it's probably up against a wall, but if it was in a position where it could be seen from both sides, say you had it on a desk or something where you would see it from both sides, it gave you the cuter side would be visible instead of being hidden, and you would see like the maker's mark. So I decided to do it backwards. Like I said, I've seen these done a lot. They're usually done the other direction. I just felt like I needed to go the other way. I just thought my husband's in there for his moral support or whatever. Hey, how about that? We actually wore complementary colors. How adorable is that? Yes, our barn is a hot mess. I do call this a barn because it has a gambrel roof in its barn shape. So we always call it a barn, but it's our workshop. Yeah, so there it is. And that's just something I threw together pretty quick. A lot of fun. But I'm going to tell you right now, I did another one that was like just a regular dinner fork and broke it because it was just a cheap fork. But it was a good one to practice on, and yeah, I broke it. So that was my thing. Yeah, somebody needs to go clean up their drill press from earlier projects. Oh, and that was the other thing. It's like, oh, you got to make it stand up straight, people. So a little bit more tweaking here and there to get it to stand up straight, and I did. And so now see how it's kind of tippy, a little bit tippy there. So I was able to go back and straighten it out. So, and here I am testing it out to see if it's stable, and it is, and just testing it out in my studio real quick before I took it in the house. So there it is, and I did bend the little tines under just to keep those sharp tines from showing, but I do have a little sharp one. That's just a cool fork because it was a meat fork. I really like it. And here's an example of it set up, and there's my little birthday display. Only got a couple of cards so far. Well, one's an Easter card technically, and then I have just my little magnetic board that I made in another video. And project number 3 is my bracelet holder, no displays I should say, and I made this out of some, not vintage, these are actually reproduction arms, but they're made so cool. And I only got 3 arms. It was in a lot of doll arms that I bought, some porcelain doll parts, and I only got the right hand, so no left hands, which just makes it kind of fun because now they're all the same. And I saw these 3 and I thought, I actually saw these when I was looking at the auction, and I said, I need those hands. because I need to do something with them. Original idea was to stick them out to hang like jewelry on, like necklaces, but I wasn't comfortable with the fact they might break. I did reinforce them. They do have dowels stuck up in them to give them the extra strength that they would need, but I still didn't feel good about maybe chipping them, or then once you get down to that little slope part, I don't know. Knowing me, I would put too much on them. So I found these 3 parts of a bed. I don't even know what they were, but they came like with a bunch of weird things that I have, but I only had 3 of them. So I had, well, 3 of these, 3 hands. It's a meant to be kind of thing. And I do like a place to display some of my cuter bracelets. I have a lot of bracelets. For someone who rarely wears bracelets, I do have a lot of bracelets. That's one of my weird things that I like to collect. I don't know why. So I decided against some, Bill, I think, said, don't paint the wood. I don't remember who it was now. I said, don't paint the wood. It was a Bill or Larry. But anyway, told me not to paint the wood, and I did anyway. So at the end of my live stream, I did work on these while talking on the phone and on the end of the live stream kind of thing, hung out with Nancy and Lola, and we just played. And I painted these antique white first, and then I'm going to go over them in a minute with another product, and it's not something you still see anymore, just something I've had forever, but it's called Antiquing Gel, and so you'll see me going through that in a little bit. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how I put those together, because I did it really quick. I did put dowels in the arms, and I used wax, and I briefly showed this new product that I bought. And I'm using wax because this might not be a permanent thing for me. I'm just going to enjoy it for now. And I may find another use for those arms later. But it's funny because after I built all this, I had set it up and I put my bracelets on it. My husband comes in and goes, you could have done those like sideways and made a necklace holder. I went, yeah, you think? I already thought of that. And it was just a matter of, I couldn't find what I wanted to use for my plaque. Original idea was an oval silver plate tray that I had, but then when I looked at my tray, I really didn't want to mess it up. It's really cute, but if I had, say, gotten one of those, say, from Dollar Tree or something like that, that I could have had fun with, absolutely. But this was a nice tray that I had, and I didn't want to mess it up. So here I'm using an older product, also by Plaid. I think it's a folk art product, actually, and I am antiquing it. Now, I'm down to the very, very last bit of the jar, what I bottled here, and told you I'm not going to re-edit this, so stumble through it, and it is kind of broken down over the years, so it's kind of separated some of the oil out. So I'm actually using the oil and that is in there, some of the brown that's mixed in, and I'm bringing some red in. I wanted a little bit redder, not just brown, because I thought the pinker, redder tones would look better with the rose colors that I used on the bracelets. The only other thing that I also used when I was building this, let me stop right now and tell you what I'm doing. I am stamping them, but I didn't like the stamp, so I'm wiping it off. And I was just trying stamping to see if I thought it looked cute, and I'm looking for some other ideas. So what I used were some vintage buttons. They're covered in like a silk, and that was just part of the little thing. And I also did this later because I really didn't know if it was gonna work, but I had a bracelet that was broken, and I took the pieces off of the bracelet and I put it on there and glued them on. I was like, not so sure if that glue was gonna hold, but it did. It was a new glue that I'm using, but it's holding on really well. So in this display, I included my bracelets. I've also incorporated my collection of found objects here, of my cameos and some other pins that I found. Now this frame is a thrifted frame that I just love, and this is a work in progress where I'm adding pins to it that are kind of blingy like this, and rhinestones. I really prefer the white. I do have like a purple bug on there, but and it's like a wasp. It literally looks like a wasp. And I have these other things that's pins falling off. I know those look like earrings with earthly pins. So 2 of them, I don't know what they were for. And I think this little leak maybe that my mother gave me, my little perfume bottle, and my Waterford ring holder, and my little fancy thing. I have some fancy things, come on, it's not all thrifted. But yeah, I think they look great with this, and they're a lot of fun. So here's a photo of it in the end, just kind of give you an idea of how it all turned out. And those are pillows I thrifted as well. Next one is my just assemblage decor in general. I walk by this all the time on my way to the studio, and it's a hot mess because it became the whole for found objects, because these are things that I thought, I'll do something with, and I would just put them on there. And I didn't care if they were rusty, broken, whatever. They just kind of ended up here. And for example, like those wine bottles, at some point in my life, I keep thinking I'm going to take those labels off and put them on my bottle tree. I have a bottle tree that needs to be worked as well. Here's another project I need to work on. They used to actually be hanging up in the front of my house, but the shell parts fell off and I need to replace that. So here I'm cleaning this poor thing off. It gets cleaned off once a year, in theory. I think it skipped a year though. It's a pretty hot mess. And it is the little wooden piece that's in front of the door I've had forever. I can't remember where I got that door. I thrifted it somewhere, you know. But that wooden piece I actually bought from the lady who makes garden art out of just weird stuff. So much fun. And I do have a photo where that is a face that she did, but I've since added to that face. So we went over to see her, and I'm adding some more stuff to my door. I had found these hooks thrifted, of course, and I'm trying to figure out how to add them, but I'm going to let my husband come do it. He's not home at this moment, and I'd like to wait for him. I don't like to climb up on stairs whenever, or ladders or anything weird whenever I am working by myself. So I'm waiting for him to get back so we can hang those. And so you'll see his little booty here in a minute. Yeah, so I just kind of let this run while I did all this work and kind of made some decisions. Yeah, I'm going to pull that burlap up. It's pretty nasty. And I do love that one wreath. And I'll tell you the story about that wreath. That wreath was in my mother's door for years. That wreath is 30 years old, if it's a day. And it was on my mother's door, and a bird always built a nest in it. So I hung it up, and I used to get birds building in it all the time as well. We have since lost a tree, or we had to cut it down. We talked all about that during the live stream, but I lost a pine tree and a sweet gum, and that cast a shadow over that. And ever since the sun has hit that, I have not been able to get birds to build in there. So before, when it had some shade hitting it, it did really well. And maybe once my crepe myrtles have filled in more, I'll attract them again. But so ever since that tree's been gone, I've not been able to get any birds to build in it. It's so sad. But it was so cute because I'd walk by and there'd be birds' nests, and I could look at the babies. And anyway, this piece is 100 years old. I'm telling you, it is so old. But it is, over the years, I've left it outside and the paint's chipped off, which is why it's outside, because it's very cheapy. So every time I have to clean, I have to brush off a lot of paint. And it's almost down to no paint at all. So I really need to spray it with sealer so that it won't rot. I know. So here I'm cleaning things, cleaning and reorganizing it. One of the weird things that I have, you may ask me, what's the weirdest thing that you have? One thing I have is a wooden foot that someone had kind of whittled to put on the end of a kind of a homemade type peg leg. And so I have that foot, and it's really cool. And then I have these two bronze adult men's shoes. Who bronzes men's shoes? I don't know. But those are two like the really weird things I have in my collection of strange found objects. But yes, my whole home is decorated with found objects. If you've ever seen any videos of my staircase, that's a good example of all the weird stuff I have. And I'm sure, go back a few, you'll find something that has to do with my stairs. But my stairs are a ridiculous mess. Anything you can find and stick somewhere, that is how I love to decorate. I'm a big fan. I'm trying to fix once again, so many broken chimes now because they've been sitting out for so long. My wind chimes are a hot mess. In fact, I did take a piece of glass. I don't think I got a photo of it. No, I didn't. So I took a piece of glass, and I did make a thing that hangs from that particular chime I was holding so that it would kind of catch the wind out of just a little bitty piece of glass. So yeah, and the old saying, does this outfit make me look fat? It does. It really does. But it's so cool, and I love loose-fitting clothing when you're working hard. So yeah, it's some fun just decorating and putting this all together. And that's just, like I said, a bunch of weird, rusty old things nobody else would want. It's just one short of the garbage can. In fact, it's past garbage can, I'm pretty sure. Most people would have thrown this stuff away, but not me. I just found a use for it. And this is something I have just built over the years, and I'm really happy they cleaned it up. Now when I walk by it, I feel so much better, because before it just kind of was a catch-all. It's like, the first flat surface when you walk in a house, this became that place. So it turned out to be kind of cute. Put all my little tiny bottles in the cabinet. I've put different things in that cabinet over the years. That's just what I had for now. I didn't feel like digging up new stuff to put in there. Just kind of rearranged what I had. I did end up editing out all of the birdhouses, and I want to put the birdhouses up in my pear tree. So gonna have to get some help, because I'm going to do that in a ladder. I'll not be up on a ladder when I'm doing that. It needs to be here to make sure I don't fall off the ladder. I have neuropathy, man. I keep having stuff in one of my feet. I won't be able to fill, and I will fall, because I fall a lot, because it's what I do. But yeah, so this was my hair. If you could see the progression, I'm trying to take some pictures. My hair like falls throughout the thing. I'm just worn out. So a lot of sweeping, a lot of cleaning up, a lot of pine straw, a lot of figuring out what to do. I did end up, edited out a lot of stuff, and there it is. Oh, I did move my a lantern over because I didn't like it there. It was kind of heavy sitting on top of that, so that does get moved. So I do a little bit of rearranging later, and you'll maybe see some pictures. But right now I was taking pictures of what I'd originally done. I do have a lot of rocks. And yes, I do realize that is a chicken feeder, and it's supposed to be turned the other way, but it gets water in it if you turn it the other way, so I flipped it that way. Yeah, so that's kind of more of the finished. No, that's not the finished look yet. Oh, I lit some candles. I was going to come back and take pictures when the light, the sun kind of went down. I forgot, and I let the candles burn out. But they put my bottles down there. I really need to still take care of those bottles one day. And I did move that little shelf down there and made little vignettes in it. The sun is setting. It's like right there on it. So it's kind of hard to see some of the stuff. I have this weird hinge that I just wanted to show. I really want to do some fun crafty things with these pieces. I love doing found objects. I hope David and I continue on with this collaboration on a regular, maybe a couple of times a year kind of thing. I love doing it, and I hope that he will continue to be my co-host, and that more people will join as they kind of get an idea of what we're doing, and they start looking for weird found objects to do stuff with. So that's just a weird sprinkler, a little star, and my jar. I was tying a rope around the jar or just make it a little prettier. Just strange things I put together. I don't know. A piece of driftwood that I had, some insulators, and those shoes. Those are the shoes I was talking about. And I want to thank David again. David Owens Creates. Be sure you check out his channel. Thank you for doing this with me. I really enjoyed it. And I love the things that you make. And I think you'll get a kick of the stuff I've put together. And I hope we can continue doing this. So please hit like and subscribe and check out the other videos. Bye!